Hey everyone, and welcome to the Bricks, Bucks, and Bytes podcast, your weekly dive into funding, market, and investor news in architecture, engineering, construction, and supply chain. Before we get started though, if you're a startup founder or operator responsible for innovation in your company, or you want a deeper, more insightful look into technology in AEC, you won't want to miss our newsletter. From deep dives into particular technologies such as AI, robotics, design, software, and so on. Hot takes from investors betting big in AEC technology and advice on building tech companies, including the stories and takeaways of the most successful AEC technology founders. Head over to www.bricks-bytes.com and sign up today to get this exclusive material straight to your inbox. And now for the episode.
Okay, good evening, guys. I have to say, since we moved the slot to evening times, my early wake-ups are not doing me any favors in the setting.
You're doing well. Good evening.
And for Martin, he's all the way in India, so it's even later for you.
Late night.
Yeah, almost good night.
10 p.m. now?
11.
Wow, you're hardcore.
Oh, you're in Kolkata.
Delhi, actually.
Delhi, okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Okay, so what are we talking today about?
We are going to talk about, I think, almost to the minute of us hitting recording on this podcast, we released one of the most exciting episodes on Bricks and Bytes that certainly I have sat in with and taken part of with Scott Wolfe from Levelset. And Martin, I remember your reaction after the interview. It was quite, it will always stick with me.
Yeah,
He was like, wow, like froze and mind blown kind of reaction.
Yeah, I think Scott's wisdom and knowledge, just wisdom. He's not trying to say smart things, but the way, like the stories and the way everything goes around, like what he's been doing, it's just super wise. When you listen to it, it's very rarely you can find people having such a great experiences and stories like that.
Yeah.
I haven't listened yet. Now it's at the top of my list.
Oh, yeah. You would enjoy it. I have listened to it more than once since, not obviously since we've been released, but since you recorded it, and very mind-opening. So I think in this discussion today, we will go through some of the points that came up within the discussion that we had with Scott, because it was so impactful. And I think first off, we come across this point about Scott's background. So Scott, I remember him telling us, maybe off air, but at the end of the interview, that he was one of the first bloggers on the internet that was blogging about law. And there was like 4 or 5 of them, and they all knew each other, which I thought was quite a cool little Easter egg. Do you call them Easter eggs? So just a fact about Scott. But he had like a rich background in a few areas. And the point I'm getting to is this idea of compound experience. So let's talk about Scott's background. He was involved with software development. He ran his parents' grocery business. And then he was also a lawyer, attorney, as they call it over in the States. And what he said there, he made this statement about people. Martin, maybe you can remember it, but I can't remember the exact meaning behind it. But it was something like, some people have 20 years of experience, and some people have 20 times 1 years of experience. Do you remember this?
Yes. So exactly what you said, right? So someone is repeating 1 year 20 times, not learning much. On the other hand, if you are venturing out and trying new things and are open, you compound this knowledge over 20 years, and that's like 20x of experience of someone who's just repeating the same year 20 times. Yeah, but I think, like you said, what was very interesting when listening to him was that being a lawyer, he was helping with the claims when the hurricane struck his area, right?
Yeah.
And he figured out that it's completely impossible to help folks with these claims. So that was his origin and how he started in construction, really.
Exactly, the catalyst for Levelset. And so what we're going to explore with Patrick today is this idea about compounded experience. So just building on some of my notes I took more from Scott's episode was what he was saying, his diverse experience, each experience built upon and integrated with the previous ones. He had exposure to technology, business, and entrepreneurship, and a lot of skill and knowledge transfer across various industries. And all of that together helped with the inception of Levelset. So Patrick, how do you view founders that have perhaps 20 years of experience versus 20 times 1 years of experience?
I love how Scott is framing that. So the way he's saying that is not something how I would have said it, but I completely empathize with the meaning and the spirit of it. And it's something that we here at Fundamental, at least, have taken the first 7 years of our own, building our company, our firm, our community for our founders. We're thinking about it, honestly, every single day, because part of the job is, I always say, right, so our only business is a decision-making business. And the decisions we're taking are usually centered around the people, about nothing else, right? So for us, it's very elemental even that we get that right. So when you now ask me that question, it's not how I would frame it, but I would perhaps give it my own spin and interpretation. And you guys can tell me, when I tell you mine, how that aligns with what Scott told you. I very much like the concept of founders that do non-linear things. Let me explain you what I mean by that. A linear thing is going to university. Then you go and do an MBA. Then you go and work for a consulting company. And then you say, hey, I feel like I'm a great general practitioner of management methods. That's why I found a company. And that's now I'm looking for my CTO because that's what I need. I need a CTO. And now I'm doing some method of market research. And that way I'm coming to an opportunity. Do you guys see what I'm doing here? I'm doing the exactly expected next step. And these are linear things. It's not ruled out, but very rarely do the non-linear results come from linear action. My business is hunting non-linear results. That's why people entrust us with their money, is because in this risky asset class, you want the non-linear results. And quite honestly, many of the founders that want to pay the price of rocket fuel, VC, want the same thing, right? They want the non-linear result too. What is a non-linear thing? So that's the beautiful thing. There's many, if not countless, combinations of what a founder background can look like when it's non-linear. But let me perhaps give you a few flavors. I spoke to a founder in December that I really liked. I didn't like some of the things that, the assumptions he made about his business, but the founder I completely loved. This founder had founded initially a company that was in the telco space, competing with Octopus Energy, Octopus Energy's telco division. And he completely outperformed on marketing, didn't have enough product differentiation. In the end, it was basically very tough to grow very big against the incumbents, etc. And, he sold the business, made money, but wasn't satisfied. The next thing that people typically do is they take a sabbatical.
Or become investors.
Exactly, Martin. Thanks for saying that. Exactly. There are many examples like that, right? They take a sabbatical, they become investors. Some of them maybe just do angel investments for a year. You know exactly what it would look like if someone does the expected thing after that. This guy signed up for the UK Special Forces. Then he was deployed overseas for a year, and he met a person that actually made him aware of a manufacturing tech opportunity that sits on both sides of construction and defense. So he comes back and does more and more research. And in the research, he does nonlinear things too. He at some point figured out, I believe in a franchising model in this manufacturing opportunity. You know what he did? He went through the entire process of becoming a McDonald's franchisee. How many people do you know that do that?
Yeah,
Not
very
many, right?
out of the box. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. If you want to become a McDonald's franchisee, that's what you do, right? That's the linear thing to do if you want to actually own a McDonald's shop. This guy didn't want to. This guy wanted to understand how McDonald's evaluates franchisees. So that's why he went through this arduous process. Doing nonlinear things. That's what we here at Fundamental oftentimes fall in love with. It doesn't mean that you can't be successful if you do it any other way. It doesn't mean that we won't become partners if you don't do it any other way. Because nonlinearity can come in many different shapes, forms, flavors, tastes, whatever, right? But that's in the end what you want to look for. And so the nonlinear stuff is being done by people, in my experience, that actually come with compound experience, that have done multiple different things. If you go back, hearing Steve Jobs talk about the typography class that he took at university, and he had no idea why the fuck he took a typography class. And then he said, 20 years later, I can't remember the exact time frame that he gave, but he said, hey, all of a sudden something fell into place when we designed the typography of the first Mac. Isn't that beautiful?
Mm-hmm.
That's how I connect with what Scott said in my own business. And I can talk about myself because I actually think I gravitate towards it because my own kind of background is also littered with some of these things that in hindsight, I'm grateful that I did, but at the moment, they didn't make sense. And that's what I'm looking for.
Very good.
Yeah, well said.
Martin, you go first.
Yeah, so I completely agree. And this is exactly what Scott said, but slightly differently. Like what I sometimes wonder when listening to, like, for example, some other podcast, for example, Founders Podcast, or some my little heroes that I've got. Where do these people find the space to and confidence to learn something, hold it, and then go somewhere else, learn it, hold it, go somewhere else, learn it, hold it, and then start connecting the dots? That's kind of
I have my answer. I don't know what you guys think of it. My answer to that question is it comes from a place of just curiosity. It just gives you something to learn something, to experience something new, even if at that point in time it doesn't give you instant ROI. I personally, for me, it comes from a place of curiosity.
Genuine curiosity.
Hey listeners, I want to take a quick break to remind you about the Bricks and Bytes newsletter. If you're interested in learning about the technology shaping the future of construction, you won't want to miss the valuable insights we share each week. To get this exclusive content delivered straight to your inbox, head over to www.bricks-bytes.com and sign up today. Link is in the show notes. Back to the show.
Traditional businesses, like you need to learn something like a linear function, like how does it work, and like keep doing it well, and you kind of scale it, right? But with technology and things out of the box, it's not that you just learn something that was done before or was practiced for decades. You just need to look out for different things.
I know this experience that you have doing all these nonlinear stuff comes like the perfect cocktail or maybe perfect storm, which then will result in a amazing product. Perhaps like what Levelset did, or what some other non-linear founders do. I also fascinated by the concept of when you apply this compounded knowledge to a completely new industry. So you have, like, the equation could be beginner's mindset combined with this compounded knowledge. Because when you approach things having not known much about the industry before, you see it in totally different ways. And a lot of innovation and creativity actually stems out of that.
I would agree. Personally, so this is talking about my personality. People have told me, hey, Patrick, you're really good at seeing first principles. And so I'm not sure if that's right or wrong. It's just something that people have said to me. I do observe that people who are truly good at observing first principles, the ability to connect different experiences from the past, actually, it's like an X-ray view. It allows you to force yourself to get away from the heuristics, the things that have always been done the way they have been done, and the logic that has always been applied because it has been applied. Because all of a sudden you have all these different life experiences, and you are seeing the more of the fundamentals behind it, why things actually happen the way they do. For me, that is the case. And I think that's something that that compound experience actually allows you to do it. Allows you to go to the axioms of why the world, the business world, humans, etc., act the way they do. And so if you have all these linear experiences stacked on top of each other, I mean, it's quite normal that you would land at all the heuristics that other people use as well.
Don't you guys think that there's something very unsexy with thinking about first principles? Because when you say something to some people about first principles that, oh no, this doesn't make sense because X, Y, Z, then everyone kind of realizes, oh, actually, he said the obvious truth, and it just there's no sexiness. Then people don't want to hear that. Yeah, that's sometimes
you suck in all the fun out of the discussion.
Yeah, of the delusion. Yeah.
But see, that's the thing about being a founder, though, right? If you're in the driver's seat, and of course, nobody on this planet is the result of only their own doing. We all need partners, customers, suppliers, people that join our company on their journey, etc. But still, you're in the driver's seat. In the end, you are making the calls. You are making the decisions. Now, there's two things here. One is how I come to my decision, and two, how I communicate my decision. So, Martin, how I come to my decision, nobody needs to know my first principles, because that's just my internal process. How I communicate my decision, sure, I can go the nerdy route and explain the first principles, or I can just go the route that is working the best for the recipient of my message. This sounds abstract, but it's actually something that I have learned from a boss of mine early in my career. So this was I thought quite smart person. And he said, Patrick, how you come to a conclusion doesn't have to be the same way how you communicate your conclusion. And that learning never left me. And so when you say, hey, whatever, nerdy first principles, etc., that's how I react to it, Martin. It's to me, hey, how I come to my own decision doesn't have to be how I tell you how I came to it.
Yeah, definitely I need to learn that. That lesson.
Yeah. Very good. But I think back to where we started, I think Scott's past, and maybe applying the lessons here to how Scott acted non-linearly. I don't think we necessarily got into the details, and maybe something to explore, but all of these experiences compounded. We're not typical, right? So going from grocery business to software development and blogging to then law, like that's quite that, I guess, that in and of itself is non-linear.
I mean, in my book, I would have to understand exactly what he did and why he did it. So I don't like to evaluate on paper. I like to understand rationales, context, etc. behind. But let's assume it was exactly like that for all the reasons that maybe we're putting into it. I would call that nonlinear.
Let's also say, let's connect 2 points now. I just see something else from my notes. So on the blogging point, this is Levelset's growth strategy. It was content-led marketing. So they wanted to create the WebMD for anything to do with payments within construction, payment issues that people have within construction. And that resulted in a monthly traffic to their website of around 750,000 to 1 million, which resulted
monthly.
Which resulted in tons and tons of leads for them as a business. So connect the dots, previous blogging experience to then creating blogs in his growth of Levelset resulted in it was obviously one of the key drivers to their success and growth.
Did he frame a lot of the content around the legal implications?
I can't remember the specifics.
I don't think so.
But it was like it was meant to be really like the most helpful resource. That was their aim. So yeah, I guess you just never know where these past experiences are going to come and benefit you in the future, as we were mentioning and discussing earlier.
But also, I would bet that all of it sounds nice and kind of cohesive retrospectively. It 100% it wasn't like that, step by step. Or now I'm a lawyer. Now I'm helping my mom and dad with the grocery business with some technology. oh, there's my marketing background, and it definitely wasn't like that, right? So there is a little bit of a
Also
genius
because
in it.
I want to completely double underline what you said, Martin, because I believe in the same thing. I think every story in retroaction, every success in retroaction can be told as if it was always a grand master plan, but very, very few actually are. But life is about creating optionality for yourself and then having the ability to take the decisions that seize those opportunities that come from optionality. That's one of the life philosophies that I have made my own. And that way, even if you can't, in hindsight, be truthful about, oh, everything was a master plan, I made all the assumptions correctly, we executed everything correctly. Come on, that's not the case. It doesn't matter. Because if you're just savvy enough of creating the optionality and then you make the decisions to seize options, that's all you need to do. My own life story is completely wacko. And I write about it partly on our website. Go hit it up. Everything I write there is, in summary, it happened that way. My parents, and sometimes people need to nudge you into optionality. My parents, between years 6 to 8 or 9, made me work on a farm every week, afternoons. It was like, at the time, I mean, do you guys really think that's what I wanted to do? Did you guys think, I had a grand master plan, now I value the hard work and that's why later I will be a hard worker? Of course not. It's just an experience that you have, but it at some point falls into place later in your life. Then I worked, when I was 10 to 12, I believe, I worked in my mom's startup as like a filing clerk, like some low-level stuff. I answered the phone and I filed some stuff away. I made sure that some of the records would move from one person to the other, completely mindless. But you needed to be a little bit detail-oriented about it, make sure that, the things are properly stacked and like stuff like that. In hindsight, today, I say, I think that gave me a lot of attention to detail. And when I look at my own organization, I'm probably the person that is most attentive to detail and so on and so forth. There were other things. And so these are things that if you think linearly, you would never do it. Never. Like, I mean, who thinks about let's work on a farm and then let's file some records? Nobody.
Who had a similar experience to you, Patrick? John D. Rockefeller. He one of his earliest jobs was double take accounting, double count accounting or something. I never heard of the term till I read the book.
Was he as tall as Patrick?
But it made him.
He was quite tall.
It made him like,
I mean, his bank account.
Yeah, his bank account. But he said like that made him very conscious about counting the pennies and making sure that every cent had a use.
I buy that.
Yeah.
I buy that. You don't do it because you have a love for, doing 1,000 accounting entries.
Yeah.
There's also
And
a
it's
really
something that
funny, interesting story that for Brad Jacobs, I can't remember it, but I just wanted to get, because people can research this, about a time where he sold a load of stock, and I can't remember the exact end result, but he just done something completely non-linear to do with stock prices. And everyone at the time was like, you're absolutely crazy, but he ended up actually rebuying it or selling it at a much higher price.
Right.
Lower.
Was it a lower price?
Depends on the option that he purchased
Yeah.
or sold.
Oh, okay. I think if
Yeah,
you're talking options, yes.
Exactly.
But see, guys, I love that you're bringing this up, and I love that Scott, with all his success that he's had, reminds us of that, and we can just put it into context or comment at it from other side. Personally, I don't believe that you can get nonlinear results by doing a bunch of linear things.
100%.
Doing an MBA at this kind of revered school, honestly, it's not something that moves me. It just doesn't. It really does not. The pedigree of the school is not an indicator of future success. It is an indicator of a few enablers. It is an indicator of, do you perhaps benefit from a network later on? Or do you perhaps benefit from certain, brand recognition, how alumni might perceive you, for example? Yes, of course. But it is not an indicator of you actually doing anything correctly that will contribute to a nonlinear outcome. Nothing of that. Whether you work for this company or that company, no, nothing. The only thing that does, in my personal evaluation of founders, is, do I see something in you that other people wouldn't do and that has led you to this place, that puts you into place to make perfect decisions, perfect prioritizations in the face of adversity, in the face of growth, etc. That's the only thing that matters.
I agree.
Fine. What's the most non-linear thing you've done?
most non-linear thing I've done in life or this week?
Let me do it for you because I really enjoy. I like this story about you. The fact that I'm going to butcher a little bit, so you could correct me on the facts. But I think, when did you move to the UK?
June 5th, 2017.
That's 27. Okay, you're not here yet. I was
Hey,
just gonna,
time is non-linear. That's a good one. Yeah.
I was just going to compliment your English, but you got the numbers wrong. But yeah, you
engineer, right?
moved. Yeah. You moved and you learned English in how quick at the time?
Well, but the thing is that I loved English previously. I was learning a lot back at home, so.
But you also came here with like you didn't have your own business or anything like that. So I think the point that I'm making here is that you came with, I wouldn't say very little, but compared to what you've got now,
£400.
yeah, okay, 400 quid compared to what you put yourself up now. I think is rather impressive. So the speed at which you learn how to speak English and also to then start your structural engineering business, and turn that into the success, I think is a non-linear
That's
story.
A migrant mindset. You just don't allow yourself to do what everyone else around you is doing, but you just do much more.
Nodding heavily.
Yeah.
I like the British middle class comfort 101.
Not just a British one. Yeah.
Guys, there's a few more points that we could. I don't know. I have to cut this one short because there are a few more, and maybe we'll get into these. So maybe we could tease them, and we'll cover them in some later episodes. But as I mentioned to you guys before we recorded, Scott brought up this interesting point about choosing the right capitalization method for business goals. And we spoke to a lot of people over the years of Bricks and Bytes, and this is the first time anyone has ever brought this this point to my attention, which I thought was very interesting and telling, perhaps, of Scott.
Yeah, because everyone we speak to, they use VC money. Maybe once or twice we've heard an example of equipment share that they use convertible debt. I think that's the convertible notes, but. What point he made is that you really have to think what your business model, what type of capital structure your business model is best suited for.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, we talk about a lot on, these shows, a few other shows, with Shub, without Shub, about, for example, when you run a working capital type business, you should find ways in order to maximize the yield or the return on the working capital. And then if you actually achieve that, raise as much debt as possible from traditional lenders. Don't go to VCs unless you need to have some equity in order to unlock more and more debt. That's one example of what I think you guys are saying or taking away from the discussion. With Scott, your capitalization needs to fit your business. And that also means, by the way, that many founders that raised from VC would have been better off at their outcome if they actually bootstrapped and never raised VC. That's an unspoken truth by many founders. And, I'm on the record just confirming that. Take VC if you build a rocket ship. And here's one thing that I said to a founder yesterday. And exactly, but you know me well by now, but that's not what I said. No. Real quick. So this founder is thinking about, building out his business. He has a nice business built. He thinks of a few avenues to develop. He asked me, Patrick, should I raise VC? And I think he thought I would say, absolutely, right? So, I mean, I'm a VC. I shut up and take my money here. Yeah. So, no, not what I said. I said, hey, in your stage, if you're early stage, basically you started maybe now, a year ago, 2 years ago, there's only two reasons to raise VC. The first one is you have something that will not get off the ground to cash flows without venture. And that is oftentimes a high minimum feature set business. Think Snapshot, think Speckle, think Arcol, think Rayon. If you need to build X years of product until you can actually satisfy the customer requirements to generate cash flow, where else would you go? Of course, you need to invest first. And that's one of the reasons why venture capital was founded. The other one is you have something proven that works, and now you need to throw money at it to actually repeat it. And the repetition could be you need to enter a new market, a new city, a new division. You need to build a second product line, etc. But you have something that works, and now you need to throw money at it, and that throwing money at it briefly puts you under the cash line that you have. And so if you want to accelerate what works, you take VC. Unfortunately, the VC industry has taught everyone, like a heroin drug dealer, that my drug is the best, you should take it in every situation possible, and then you will be better off. And that's just a lie.
Perfect.
And I don't understand why, because I'm much better off if the founder is aligned in their outcomes with what we are trying to achieve. If you're building a nonlinear business and you fall into one of these two categories, nothing better can happen to me than you coming to me and say, hey, let's talk about a partnership, right? But what good does it mean if you actually don't realize why you would enter into a partnership with a VC, or maybe you're actually not fit for the outcome, but you think you are? I don't understand it. It's like, make yourself transparent, tell people what you are, what you represent, what your product is, and then whoever wants to buy the product, after all of that information exchange, they are your customers, your partners, your suppliers, etc. It's like perfectly easy.
Perfect. Sell a good product.
Exactly. So the best source of capital is your customer. Print that out, put it over your bed, and never forget it anymore. The best source of capital is your customer. The second best source of capital is usually someone that gives you really preferential terms because they believe in you. Family and friends is typically the one that would help you start up. If you have reached a certain scale, a certain strength in the balance sheet, etc., banks, but traditional loans, not venture debt. Avoid venture debt like the plague. Traditional banks with traditional loans are also pretty good. And then if you want people who actually are aligned with what you do, take the risk, and you can find a partner, not a brand, not a firm, a partner that you love. VC, for one of these two cases that I just described, makes perfect sense too.
Maybe end. Yeah, guys, short and sweet this today, but enjoyable nevertheless. We will see you next week.